So tell me what's new and exciting with you. So you, my observation, you have your hands in like 1,000 things, which is really smart and completely opposite of myself. I'm like all in on one thing, but you are in so many different things.
Yeah, I think I learned a long time ago that the most successful people in the world have 7 streams of income.
Seven
And
streams.
yeah, and it makes sense if you think about it, because if all of your revenue is tied up into a single project, if something goes wrong, the economy, society, a technological change, that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
Whereas if you got 7 streams of income, losing one is a very small negative impact.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I like about this is it actually, because a lot of people are like, well, now you're doing lots of different stuff. How you focus? And I was like, well, what I focus on is building reliable systems. That's my focus. So each stream of income is just a new way to test reliable systems. And once I've got a system, I roll it across all the streams. New system, roll it across all the streams.
Yeah. So you're not like fully like I'm running each and every business every single day. Like you grow it and then you just sort of oversee it. So then you have other people to run and do all the systems.
Yeah. For example, like I own a fitness company that I never been into or seen. I own a Dungeons and Dragons shop. Love Dungeons and Dragons. I receive countless products. I've got some cool stuff behind me up here. So some really, really cool things there. But I never go into the shop. I don't know how the point of sale works. I just receive, I think it makes like $500,000 a year or something. But I don't do anything with it.
That's the cool part of being like a hands-off kind of owner. Like I'm fully in the business as a owner and CEO, but you're just like owner, which is kind of nice as well. Although I know you're pretty hands-on with some of your other businesses.
Yeah, well, actually, so I try to be hands-on as a mentor, teacher, and trainer of my staff, but not do the work.
Yeah.
So, for example, my video guy, when he came to work to me, he owned his own YouTube channel, had a few videos, like was kind of good. And so one of the things that I wanted was a podcast studio so that for each of my brands, they could have their own podcast. So again, rather than just think I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to build a podcast studio and I'm going to have all my brands come in. So I said to him, okay, here's the budget, here's the room, make a podcast studio. And he's like, I have no idea. Like, what do you mean you got no idea? He goes, I don't know what to buy, I don't know what to do. I was like, okay, no problem, that's fair. I was like, so schedule 3 days in the calendar and you and me will build it together. And so then I got hands-on and then I built the studio. I set up the lights, I did the rigging, I did the cameras, I synced them, I bought the live switcher equipment. We went through 4 different versions of audio. I tweaked them each time, but he was with me the whole time. Now he runs that studio. He knows everything about it. He can tech solve it. He literally can do it without me because he helped build it from scratch.
That's awesome. How the heck do you come up with content for 4 different YouTube channels? Like I struggle just coming up with content for my just one, and it's like, holy crap, how does it keep coming for you?
So I don't come up with the content. I have a content creation team that come up with the content. And the content creation team, we brainstorm. So you can't see it on the camera, but there's a whiteboard right here. And there's a list of things that my content creation team will be like, hey, we should do a video on this, we should do a video on that, or this is a good idea. And then I'll just come and see it on my whiteboard and I'll tick, hey, this is good, I like this, I don't like that. And yeah, that's kind of what we do. So each staff member is in charge of their own stuff. Anyone can throw ideas out. And yeah.
Nice.
So the content team.
That's imperative. How do you, what is the latest trend? Because like we're constantly trying to keep up, there for a while, it was all about reels. And now it seems to me I have way better engagement on Facebook and they're like, oh, you're acknowledging, you're having good back and forth, so I just don't know where because it's constantly changing and upgrading. Where is your best ROI for yourself?
As a business owner, we want static, reliable, tell me the system so we can copy it. As a social media platform, they're competing with other social media platforms for what is hot. So they're altering every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
By the time another business owner has found something that works, tested it, got the results from it, is talking about it, it's already too late for everybody else. So you got to innovate. You got to be the first. You got to be playing around and be like, you know, what are we going to do? So for us, most of the time, that's just, what do we want to do? So I'll tell you a secret. No one knows this, Angie. So
Ooh, good.
When we built our podcast, and you've been to our event space, so we turned our event space into our podcast studio. We did that because we decided to go all in on podcasts, because podcasts had the highest financial rate of return of anything we did. We put money into a podcast, it worked. So we're like, all right, well, we're going to build a podcast studio. That wasn't somebody else telling us, we found that ourselves. So what we then did was we said, well, we're going to do the best quality podcast we can. And because I have a background in film, that meant film cameras. So everyone else is shooting on DSLRs, iPhones. Like, we shoot on film cameras. These cameras, you know, $5,000 a camera. We've got 3 of them. We have a live switcher. We've got professional audio through. We're not using like tiny little lavalier mics. Like, we've got wired, like, proper microphones. And so everything is done correctly. We've got an audio switcher. We have an audio technician. It's a real studio. But what did that mean? It meant that when we started launching our podcast, we sent it to some TV production companies. And we said, hey, we're recording TV production quality as a podcast. Just thought you'd like to know. One of the companies came back and said, we like this. Are you fully editing it? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, can we buy it off you? I'm like, sure. And so now, I can't say which one, but a major streaming platform has just acquired our podcast.
Oh, nice.
And so while everyone else is battling on YouTube and Facebook, we're just going to, you know, be on a live streaming platform, like one of the main things that you watch on your TV. And we've got an actual TV show because we played our own game. We weren't copying what everyone else did. We didn't worry about the trends. We was playing our own game. And that's kind of what we tend to do. We tend to think, okay, well, what are we really good at that nobody else is good at? How can we win? You know, not what is the cheapest, quickest, easiest way of doing it. What's the best way? Like, if we were going to do this best. So, you know, but my CFO was definitely not happy when I said that, you know, I'm going to build a broadcast quality podcast studio. You know, he was literally like, we better be renting that out to other people then, you know, like, because if you're because, you know, the building was $500,000 to purchase, and the studio equipment inside is like $70,000. Yeah. So this was not a small investment. It was a very large investment. And my CFO was like, I'm very unhappy with this purchase. And of course, I told my CFO, we're going to rent it out. The answer is we're not. And the money we get from the TV show actually completely covers everything. But he didn't know that. And he didn't know that was an option. And I wasn't going to tell him, look, I think I'm just going to get a TV show out of this and not worry about it. Yeah. You know, sometimes it's just, what have you got to do to get it done?
I love that. And sometimes it's great to be the boss. You know, it's just like,
exactly.
This is what we're doing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So your history, I'm quite familiar with, but you're kind of like me. We're sort of against all odds. Like, we shouldn't be in the positions we're in, having, you know, when you look at our upbringing and what it took to get to where we're at. Can you share with our audience a little bit of our journey? Because I know, you know, obviously you're not from here and you've had to fight very hard to get to where you're at. And I just love your story.
Thank you. Yeah. So I grew up in a very poor household in a project in London. I find Americans understand it best when I say I was one of like 3 white families in the area. And I feel that when you say it like that, Americans kind of get an idea of what your upbringing was like. I was attacked regularly. By attacked, I mean, one time, I'm old, so I went to make a phone call at a payphone because we didn't have a home phone to do with that anymore. And
it was 25 cents. Oh, well, I don't know what it was over where you were.
Yeah, no, it was 20p, 20 pence. Okay. And I got attacked by a gang of 20 kids, beat me up, like literally punched through the glass to the phone box, because our phone boxes are sealed. So they punched through the glass to punch me inside, and basically just left me in the box covered in shattered glass as they're kicking me through the box. And I can't do anything. I can't get out because I'm trapped inside a metal box. It's like a metal cage. And that happened twice, that particular scenario, not counting all the other times. So life was hard. We had no money. I mean, by no money, I mean, we were living on like £400 a month. And that was for, 3 children, 2 adults. And that included everything we could possibly need: food, gas, everything. I mean, Life was tough. At the age of 11, I was told I have to get a job because I got to help. So I started moving furniture at the age of 11. It was we have a man and a van in the UK is kind of a thing. It's like a guy that has a van, but his name was Frank. Never going to forget old Frank. He's an old guy, and he was a bit too old to lift things on his own. So like at 11, I was the helpful lifter. Between the two of us, we could lift a sofa or a table, and we'd basically not move a whole home, but move a room. Like somebody that lived as a roommate would use Frank.
At 11, I can't imagine you were very large, especially not having a lot of money. I just don't see the stature.
I've never been a strong. No, I've never been a big guy, but I've been a strong guy because at the age of 11, I had to lift furniture. So
yeah,
but I needed to. But here's the thing: like my pay was tips. I didn't get paid any of the cash, but I got tips. So whatever we got tipped, we split, and so I got half of the tips, which made me a hard worker, like because I wanted to make sure we got tips. And Frank told me, he's like, you need a hustle because you're 11. People are going to think you're sweet, so you work really hard, and they're going to tip you well, and we're going to split that tip, and that's your pay. So I could get £20 for a day of work, but again, my family was living on 400. £20 a day is actually more than my family were getting.
Yeah, but
it was a 12-hour day, and I was 11, and I was doing that instead of being a kid. And I didn't work every day. Initially, it was like once or twice a week, but £40, I mean, it's a lot. It's a significant amount of money. Now, I was using that to buy bacon, to buy things that made life better. But I would buy it, I'd use it to buy like my school uniform and just stuff so that I wasn't being picked on for being poor, because I got picked on a lot for being poor.
That was my question. So you were still going to school through all this. You were maintaining some type of education while still working.
Yeah, I was in the top like 5% of my school while doing that. But again, I got smart, so I was playing truant a lot.
Yeah.
So I could work and make money, and I acquired permission slips to skip school, providing they were signed, and I pre-signed them for my parents. Like I did that kind of.
I did the exact same thing through high school. It was my signature. They knew. I knew going right in. I was laying that foundation.
Yeah, the kind of things that poor people do to get by. So, and then I was picking and choosing what class. Like I skipped physical education. I don't need to be good at sports. I'm lifting stuff for a living. Like I don't want to spend a whole day lifting furniture and then go and play soccer. So to this day, I can't play football. I suck at non-violent sports. I'm good at martial arts and stuff because that's what I did in my spare time. But I'm bad at anything with a ball, tennis.
And that's so interesting that you called martial arts a non-violent sports, because like when I think of martial arts, I think violence, like, or at least defending against violence. So that's interesting.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that I'm good at. I've been doing various martial arts since I was 7. Won different tournaments and competitions and stuff. But I still like, actually this weekend I'm going away for a week to fight. So that's the kind of stuff I do. I've got there's a buddy of mine is a UFC champion. He's like world belt holder, and so he's coming to my house for a day in September to train. So like I still fight, I still train. I'm not a cage fighter. I'm not a boxer. That's not what I do. But I like training with that stuff because it is useful in the kind of stuff that I do as well. So but yeah, so I've always done that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like you're really good at, like, say, the single person sports, not necessarily team sports where, but it's like you depend on yourself, and you're really good at that.
You'd be surprised, actually. The event I'm doing next week is a team sport.
Okay.
But it's a team fighting sport. So, and I've got a team of 30 guys I'm running.
Wow.
So yeah, so I like that kind of stuff. I actually do well with team. It's not balls. It's balls are the problem, because I've got no coordination about ball, because while everyone else was playing catch or football or cricket or rugby, I was punching things, hitting things, and lifting heavy things. That was, and again, it's like, people always look at me because I'm not bulky, because I didn't lift weights. I lift furniture. So I'm strong for my size, but I look small because lifting furniture is about using your body weight correctly. And but anyway, but yeah. So
did you say balls were the problem? I just want to make sure I heard that.
Yeah, me and balls are not good friends. I try.
Okay, just want to check and make sure I heard that correctly.
You're correct. I try not to interact with balls as often as possible. But yeah, so that was like my upbringing. And, I graduated early because I just wanted to get out of school. I didn't go to college initially. Obviously, I've got my master's degree behind me now, so that changed as I got older. But I did that recently. I didn't do that as a young kid. And I got into business, I think, quite early, the idea of being able to make money. And I think that's partly because I was a mover and I got paid in tips. I wasn't used to getting paid by the hour. I was used to getting paid based on success. So I became very success oriented. And I think that was like the start of it. I definitely spent some time as a janitor. I got like deep depression when like a lot of my businesses failed when I was younger. And then I ended up becoming a janitor for a while, kind of doing nothing, which is where I then sort of really started coming into my own. I became a dating coach. I was the #1 dating coach in the world 3 years in a row. That was huge for me because I was doing something that I was very good at and making a lot of money doing it. And from that, I transitioned into, well, what other businesses can I do? What systems can I take from dating and apply to another business? And that's where we are today.
So what makes you a dating expert? You were just very successful at it. You just knew how to intuitively sort of read people. What makes you an expert, or how did you gain that kind of knowledge?
Yeah, quite the opposite. I was so bad at dating because while everybody else was learning dating, I was lifting furniture, that I'm at 26 and had no skills. I was a janitor at 26, no skills with women, no people skills. So I had to learn people skills from scratch. And I think that was the key component, is that having to learn it from scratch meant I understood it. I always think back to, I had a school teacher and she wanted to be a piano teacher. And so she got her teaching education. This is one of my favorite stories. And she graduated and her worst subject was English. And they're like, if you don't graduate English, you can't be a teacher. And she was very angry because she hated English. But so she graduated, she did it. She had to get a tutor. She got through English and she became a piano teacher and hated it because none of the kids could just play the piano. She's always been good at the piano. And she's like, just play, push the button. It's so easy. Just do the thing. And she would get frustrated. And somebody suggested she teaches English. And she was, I hate English. And they're like, well, what better subject for you to teach than something that you hated? Make it fun. And so she was she was like the deputy head of our school and the head of English. And she said, yeah, she found a passion for English because she sympathized with the kids. And I feel the same about dating. I was so bad at it. And I learned it as a step-by-step process that now I'm very good at it. And it's very easy to teach because it's just what I do.
That's awesome. So would you say you were innately smart? Like you just came into this world with academic skills and everything just sort of came easy for you, or do you have to work for it?
Yeah, no, not at all. Absolutely not at all was I ever innately smart or good at anything. I have a desire to question things, and I was born with that. And I think that is my my secret weapon, my curse, whatever you want to call it. I question everything. I don't believe what anyone says. I don't take anything at face value. And I think that's part of growing up in a hood, is you get used to everyone being full of shit. And so I just don't believe anybody. And that is probably my superpower. So if I'm, if I'm reading a book and the book says, oh, blah, 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 I'm like, yeah, but is that true though? And then I'm going to go and research it. I'm going to read it. But the act of doing that means I kind of understand it better. It's not because I'm actually smart. It's just because I took it a step further because I didn't believe it. And it also means that if I get in a discussion with somebody, I've usually looked into it more than them, unless it's their subject, right? Like, so I wouldn't get into an argument with you about your career because you know a lot more about it than I do. So I would literally just listen to everything you say and say, well, this woman's clearly understood it. But I would go and double check some things you say. I wouldn't do it in front of you because that's rude, but I would be like, oh, Angie said that. You go and say, and because you're good at what you do, I'll probably find you're right. And that will really cement it. I'm like, oh, I met someone really good. And then and if people get it wrong, because they think I double check to prove them wrong, I actually double check to prove them right. Like I want them to be right, because then I don't feel like I wasted my time listening to an idiot. Like I'm like, oh no, that's great. Yeah. But then it kind of like cements it in. And now I know that piece of information.
I love that because I think, over the last like 5 years, society has changed so much where we put so much into experts and masterminds and they're the authority and they know best. And people just blindly paying money and expecting like they're going to be like the person that they're in the mastermind with. And they don't question. And then they end up, giving up all their resources or everything they own because they're just blindly trusting someone who literally has no idea about their own field. And I feel like that's just gotten from bad to worse with all the coaches and the different experts in the field that aren't necessarily experts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that is absolutely a key component nowadays. Like there are so many people that powered by AI, books, and a few results feel that it's now their job to help other people. And I'm like, yeah, but if you haven't done it, you really shouldn't. Or if you've done it a few times, I like to think about like dating. Like, why am I good at dating? I'm good at dating because I've helped over 350,000 clients. Like, why am I good at business consulting? Because I've helped over 2,100 clients. I've helped a lot more dating clients than business clients. And if somebody's helped 10,000 business clients successfully, then, I'm like, listen to that guy, don't listen to me. Unless you resonate with what I'm saying, then that's fine. But yeah, when it comes to dating, there's very few people that have done more than my company has.
Yeah. Have you seen a lot of successful marriages out of that dating?
Yes. And so much more. A lot of people that come to us for dating, like they're already married and they just want to fix their relationship, or they're single and they don't want to get married. And I think a lot of people come to us because they want to be okay with that. They're like, I'm single. I don't want to get married. And that's like women, men, it makes no difference. Like they're like, I just want to enjoy being me. Is that okay? We get couples come to us that want to experiment in the bedroom. We get that kind of stuff. And yeah, we do get, single men looking to get married and find their partner. And we don't get invited to weddings, funny enough. I've been invited to a few. I've never gone to one. The reason we don't get invited is a lot of people don't like their partner knowing that they paid to learn. They like to pretend that they were always good.
Yeah. It's like their dirty little secret, which is like,
I like
such not a big deal.
Yeah, if we came to a wedding, I like to think that we'd be standing in the corner, give like a knowing nod from a distance, raise a glass.
They're all blushing when they see you.
Yeah, as we like walk off, like that kind of like, you got it, bro. And then off we go. I feel like we're that kind of people. They don't like us meeting.
Yeah.
I get it.
Is that more of like an online community, or you actually like work with people live and in person? You have quite a different model, which is really, I think, pretty smart and cool.
Thanks. Yeah, everything and all of the above. We have online, we have in person. We're running an event coming up. It's 2023. We've got an event coming up in December. That's a week-long event. It's called Charm, and it's how to be charming. And so we define charming as charisma. So we have a whole thing about how to talk to people and be charismatic, heroic. So we have this whole thing about protecting people. And we have a bunch of martial artists coming in, so people can learn how to do self-defense. And so we have that. And then affluence. So we've got some wealth coaches coming in, and they're going to talk about savings, investments, and that kind of stuff. And then respectable. You have to look respectable. So we have fashion advisors. They're going to do photo shoots. And then the last skill is mastery, which is being able to develop new skills. And so we're going to teach them poetry, and we're going to teach them music, and we're going to teach them a bunch of skills that they just don't have. And we're going to speed teach them how to learn these skills rapidly. So they can do that kind of stuff.
Are you going to include in that speed dating as part of it after they learn their speed skills?
So we're not. What we're going to do instead is every evening there's a party that we're throwing, and we're inviting people to the party, and they will get to practice those skills. So it won't be speed dating necessarily. There will be single people there that they can interact with. But that will be on what happens. We stay out of it. That's up to them. There are some of the parties are X-rated. And so we have some experts in the alternate lifestyle coming in to throw alternate lifestyle parties so that they can experiment with spanking or whatever else that they want to do. So it's kind of fun. And that's like an opt-in, opt-out. They don't have to do that.
Do you have them sign like waivers, kind of like at my work, you have to sign like HIPAA waivers so that, people's anonymity is protected. Do you guys have that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. So has it gotten confusing for you as an expert with all the gender changing that we're experiencing in the world? Because I know through our talks, there's a lot that's very firmly, this is the man, this is how to attract man, this is women, this is how they need to behave or they do behave, and how to make those work. Has that complicated things?
Yeah, it's not been a problem for us. I think that we were kind of quite ahead of the curve on that because it was showing up in people's dating lives before it was showing up in the media.
Mm.
And so I have a lot of friends in transition. I had a very unique scenario where there was a woman that I was like on a date with, and nothing happened, but like, we went on a date and we were just feeling the chemistry. And I think we decided to just be friends, but we were definitely attracted. And there was definitely a kiss, but there wasn't much more than that. And then the next time I saw her, she was a he. And then the next time I saw him, he had a beard. And so it was very strange to like, the first time I was kind of attracted, but there wasn't chemistry, so it was whatever. The second time I was still attracted, but calling him a dude. And then the last time I wasn't attracted, and he definitely looked like a guy. So and this was well before this was in the media, so I was kind of already in that mode. But we always teach with dating, there is certain components that are definitely gender centric. However, it's more about which of those stereotypes and archetypes you're following.
Mm.
So if you're a pursuer, which we would typically consider the male role, you're going to have a lot of problems that come up because you're pursuing. And we will typically call that the man or the male. And there are some people that absolutely will take offense to that and be like, well, I'm not. And I said, I totally understand. You can use the term pursuer, you can do it however you want. And we've definitely had people be like, hey, can you be more gender inclusive? And the way we handle that personally is we say, absolutely, in this training right now, if you want me to be more gender inclusive, I will do my best to do that. And then they'll say, well, in the materials, it's still male. Can you change that? And I say, no. And that they often take offense with. I'm like, look, you have your right to what you want. However, it doesn't change the fact that 80% of our clientele are biological males who identify as male. Therefore, our work is written to cater to the 80% of our clients. If we shift that and change it to the less than 1% of our clients, that would be bad business. And so, we're very open to have that discussion with them, but we're like, as long as the majority of our clients are 80% biological male identifying as heterosexual male, then we're going to keep our writing based in that way.
I like that because it can get confusing. For example, we have, I have like 100 staff, and when we're writing notes, there are a couple on staff that identify as a they. And so they'll write reports like they were doing this. And it was like, well, who is they? Like, how many people? What were all the people that were there? Like, our minds go to like literal theys. And so it can get very confusing in clinical note taking and other things if we accommodate. And I'm not saying we're against it, but it's not clearly defined, and so it can complicate in how people are being handled if we 100% agreed to change the verbiage for that like 1%. It just wouldn't be good business practice for us either, or people's care that we're looking towards us.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that makes so much sense, especially because you're in what is essentially the medical field. So right. Medical accuracy is important, right? It's the same as if you go and see a doctor, they're going to need to know your biological gender.
Yeah.
Because that's going to matter.
Yeah. So what I loved, what I've learned a lot about from you is truly the masculine and feminine. And I know you work with, and I know a lot of very CEO women. So we're used to sort of being firmly in the masculine because it's sort of a role you have to take to be a boss of a lot of people. I mean, obviously you can do it from the feminine, but so it's a lot of learning of that balance. Would you say that you deal with that a lot?
Yeah, it definitely comes up in the dating field. It comes up a lot. It does come up a lot in the business field as well. There are, I definitely have some clients who, who are trans or in transition, but the majority are identifying as their biological, gender. So yeah, the traditional roles do matter and they do impact. And in my experience, what happens is once somebody transitions, all that happens is they trade one subset of problems for another. So, and that's fine because they're happy with that, and that's great and good for them. But yeah, we do really look at historically what the gender roles mean and how that affects dating, because that's a key component. For example, we perceive the man, the masculine identity as the pursuer, but actually women initiate all relationships. So a male has zero success unless a woman gives some kind of permission for that success in the first place.
So if
It's
a man
fascinating.
is aggressively trying to pursue and the women show no interest, it's not going to go anywhere. And likewise, a
Zero
woman
success.
can't expect that a man's going to get in line if she doesn't make the first move.
Yeah, she has to show that it's okay for him to make a move. And this is where women struggle, because they will, when they think somebody is out of their league, they won't show interest because they don't want to get rejected, or they don't want to come across as too easy, but they're not realizing that they're not paving the way for that success to happen. A really good friend of mine says it's very easy for a woman to find a man that will want to take them to bed, very hard to find a man who will want to date them. And what's fascinating about that is that's because women put zero effort into being good at dating. And I know that sounds crazy, and a lot of women are going to find that completely insulting. But if I say to you, okay, where are you and him going for dinner? If your answer is wherever he wants, there's a problem. You're not showing up. What do you bring to that table? And if she's like, but that's how it is, I'm like, and that's why men don't like it. That is how it is. And that's why men are putting in the effort. And the man's like, well, if I'm putting in the effort, I want to get my result. And then I want to go and pick somebody else if I don't like this. Whereas the women that learn how to be good at dating, that learn the skill set, because like men have to learn how to be good in bed. Men have to learn how to pursue. That's a skill they have to learn. Women take it for granted the men can just do it, but they can't. Some men pick it up quicker than others. And they're the ones that I'm like, yeah, this guy's great. He gets it. No, that guy worked at getting it. And then there are other men that have not done that work yet, which women are like, oh, I would never go with that guy. It's like, well, he hasn't done the work yet. And likewise, women are the same. You can be a very beautiful woman, but have not done the work to make it worthwhile being in a relationship. So this actually came up with somebody that I was dating, where for her birthday, I went out of my way to make it a very special, magical day. And some other guys that she knew who normally don't give her any attention bought her some gifts. And because I always go out of my way to make something special and magical for her, she made a post online that was like, oh my God, my birthday was wonderful and magical. Thanks to all these people that helped, and put my name in that post. Meanwhile, these two other people that normally never give her any attention, who would, actually spend, at least $500 on a gift. She went, oh my God, thank you so much to this person for sending me this gift. And so I phoned her up after. I was like, hey, just so you know, your post kind of stung a bit. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, I spent close to 5 figures on your birthday this year. And she goes, right. And I was like, not to mention the time, effort, energy of working out what it is, logistics, flying to go and see you, like I did a whole bunch of stuff. And she goes, yeah, I know. I thanked you for it. I was like, yeah, but these other two random dudes who are friends of yours got personal shout outs. And she goes, well, it didn't happen on my birthday. It happened, the day after. I'm like, right. So they were late. I was like, so what you're telling me is if I spend less money on you, put less effort in, and deliver it later, that's going to get me more recognition. And it took her a while to see that, because she was like, you're being jealous. I'm not jealous of these guys. I was like, that's not the issue. The issue is I don't feel like you understand what your actions mean. But as a guy, we're acutely aware of that. If a woman buys you a present as a guy, you're going to make a deal of it because it's rare. So when it happens, you know to do it. Likewise, women will put the focus on the thing that is rare, but ignore the thing that is showing up consistently for them, and then complain that they can't find anybody who shows up consistently for them.
Mm. Do you
And
think that has to do with their love language though? Like, because certain people like respond to a gift, other people like myself, it's an act of service. Like I would recognize that work and go, holy shit, you put in that work. Other people just want the, the bling or whatever it is.
so to be clear, the 5 figures included a significant amount of money in gifts. So there were gifts, there was experiences, there was
Yeah.
effort, there was quality. I mean, I hit every love language. I'm a dating coach. I'm going to hit all 5 because that's how it is,
You
right?
can't go wrong if you do that.
Yeah, like these guys, like, bought a single gift at the Apple store,
Right, right.
like,
But they've never done it. So it was like, oh my God, they're amazing.
right. Yeah. Because she wanted to reinforce it. Like, oh, if I say thank you, maybe this will happen again next year. I'm not saying it's conscious, but like subconsciously,
Sure.
like, wow, this guy's not putting effort before. This is really nice. I
Yeah.
want to make a deal of it. But it's like, yeah, but the one that does put the effort in, and
Yeah.
that's where women go wrong, because they've never, like, we teach that. Like, that's actually on our course. If a woman shows you a behavior you like, you reinforce it every time, not sometimes, every time. Whereas, because women aren't trained, unless they go to a training course, they don't know that. So they're going, okay, well, this was really nice, I'm going to make a big deal of it. And women follow their emotions quite a lot. And because they're following their emotions, they're doing what feels right. It's funny, this actually this showed up in my relationship with my wife recently, where she had like one of the best weeks ever. And at the end of the week, I was like really drained, really tired. And she goes, babe, what's going on? We had the best week. I was like, no, love, you had the best week. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, your week was amazing because I spent an entire week making your week amazing. And now I'm tired. And she had this big, like, oh my God. She's like, it felt like a good week. So I felt we had a good week. And I was like, yeah, no, you had a good week because I gave you a good week, because she's been stressed recently. So I went out of my way to give her a good week. But at the end of the week, that left me tired, burnt out, drained, like done, like, because I was like, that took a lot. And to give you guys, like, I mean, you can see on my social media right now, if you want to go and look at it, you can see it all. But my wife likes good food, and I was raised, because we were poor, but my dad is a really good cook. And in our family, the men cook. So we actually, when we ate and had money for food, which was rare, we ate good food. So that's why I spent my money on food a lot, because I learned how to cook. So I would go and buy my own ingredients and cook good food. So I can cook 5-star, like, restaurant quality food. Not an exaggeration, just a fact. To give you an idea, for breakfast, I made a homemade Japanese golden sauce, grilled some Kobe steaks, and then provided that with some fresh wasabi that I imported from Japan. That was breakfast. And that's not, for that week, for her, that was what it was. It was every meal she ate was as if she went to a 5-star Michelin restaurant, while also taking her on dates and buying her gifts. And I booked her a trip to Tulum. So, like, it was an amazing week for her.
Yeah.
And I was dead at the end of it.
You're like, I'm just going to sleep for 3 days. So
right, yeah. And she's like, what's wrong? But we had the best. I'm so energized. She's, what happened? But it was good. It was a good revelation for her, like, that she needed to kind of help out a bit.
Well, and I mean, I think that you hit on a lot of things. Like, it is a lot about awareness and communication. I think a lot of people just aren't. They're more ruled by emotion and their past triggers and traumas, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you work with people to sort of recognize that trauma and move on from it? Is that like a part of the work you do?
Absolutely not. And the reason for that is because we're not qualified. I mean, I'm a qualified psychologist, but my team aren't. And so we don't, we don't do that. We don't do counseling. We don't do therapy. We'll recommend you go therapy straight away. The minute you say to us, I'm feeling really down, first words out of our mouth are going to be like, you should see a therapist. We've got some recommendations if you need. Like, we stay in our lane.
Yeah.
You will be the best at dating. Like Angie, I'm looking, if I take somebody on a date, it's one of the best dates of their life. Like, that's what I do. Because I'm a dating coach, and it's a good date. But that's it. But if you're struggling to have excitement, passion, love, affection in your relationship, and your partner isn't willing to go to counseling over it, or you're single, there's nowhere to go. You go to us.
So
for the date.
How do you get people to want to do that? Because it seems to me like men will reach a certain point and they're like, this is as good as it gets. This is the amount of effort I want to put in. I just expect that, you know, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. There just doesn't seem a lot of initiative to want to be like the best dating person.
What they want is more intimacy and affection. That's what they want. So our advertising doesn't say become the best at dating in the same way that it doesn't say this works for any gender. It does work for any gender, and you will become the best at dating. Our advertising says if you're a guy and you're not having the kind of connection in the bedroom that you want, or you're single and you're spending your evenings watching adult entertainment, you should call us, because you don't have to be alone. You can be with somebody who likes you. And if you want to meet that person, we're there.
Nice. Is that your favorite business out of all of yours? I mean, I imagine it's the most exciting, although you've been doing it a while, so maybe exciting isn't the right word.
It's not my favorite. My favorite is, it's complicated. Like, I like my Dungeons and Dragons store a lot.
Yes, I'm not making you pick your favorite kid right now.
Yeah,
well, don't feel bad.
but you kind of are. No, like I like my Dungeons and Dragons store a lot. I like my business coaching a lot, and I like my dating company a lot. Like, they're my three big ones.
Yeah.
But I also own like an event where people go to fight. Like the event I'm doing next week, I don't own, but I definitely have a travel agency that takes people there, and I make some money from that. But I own an event in November that I do own where people go and fight. And I like that one a lot as well. So that'd be like my fourth favorite. But the thing I love the most out of all these things is actually hanging out with my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. Like, that's where I put my energy and attention. Like the event next week I'm going to, I'm taking one of my kids to it. When the Barbie movie came out, I took my daughter to see it straight away. Like, we had a whole day. I bought her like a bunch of Barbie toys, and I sat playing Barbies with her. You know, like I'm big on, you know, the other day I found out that one of my kids was being bullied by the other kids, because we have 5 children. And so in retaliation, I took that one child and we went to like an Asian market, and they got to play video games, and we bought toys, and we bought candy and everything. So we just gave them like the best day of their life, and came back, and that we bought candy for the other kids, but the one that was getting picked on had more. And the other kids were like, well, I want to go. I was like, yeah, well, you guys are acting like bullies, so you guys don't get to go. And they were like, we're really sorry, you know, and it fixed it. But like, that's the kind of dad I am. Like, and I skipped a day of work to do that. Like, that was like, okay, I'm not going to work today. My kid is more important. My kid that's getting bullied is more important. And it quashed it instantly. Like my other kids were like, we're really sorry, we won't do it again. I was like, that's right, you won't do it again. You do not siblings. Like, that doesn't happen under this roof. But I gave up day of work for that.
That's nice. Do your kids, because you have a particular accent, your wife has a particular accent, and then you guys are living in the United States. Where do your kids lie as far as accents go, or do they not have one?
So yeah, good question. So I'm an English accent. My wife's Russian, and so she's got a Russian accent. Our kids speak Russian, or understand Russian is a better way of saying it. They speak some Russian words. She spent a few years only speaking Russian to the kids, so that they have some Russian vocabulary. And it's better to say they all sound American-ish. It's like they're American with a few English words in there.
Yeah.
But they do the best English accent ever. Like, if they want to pretend to be English, it's very easy for them.
Yeah.
And if they want to pretend to be Russian, it's very, and like, same as me, actually. Just, you know, I've been with Eve, my partner, for 10 years. And like, I do like the best Russian accent. Which is like the coolest part, because you're there, you know, the entire time. So.
Yeah. Yesterday, the CrossFit Games, it was the finals, and a Russian guy almost won the whole thing until he got hurt. And yeah.
Oh no, that's bad.
I know.
It's going to be a problem for him, you know, especially moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, you know, when I was like learning Russian to go and visit Russia to see a family, whenever I said it, like, you know, I'd be, oh, привет, доброе утро, and she's like, that doesn't, sounds weird, you know. And I was like, oh, just fake Russian accent. She goes, that's not going to work. I was like, it will. I was like, привет, доброе утро, and she's like, oh, that's so good. You know, it's like, the minute you add a really fake, exaggerated, stereotypical accent over a language, suddenly you can speak the language perfectly. You have to do that.
So I'll give you my attempt. So my son Logan, when he was young, had a friend who was from England, and the little brother had basically lived here his whole life, but somehow had the biggest accent of all of them. And he would say, "Mom, me needs me sweets." I forget what it was, but we would just laugh so hard. It was so funny. It was like, wait, you're not even raised over there. Why do you have the biggest accent? But it was super cute.
Dude, I love that. That was actually pretty good. That was, but it's funny because this isn't even my real accent. My real accent is I'm a Cockney, but Americans can't understand it. So I developed this one, so that Americans can hear me. But I definitely shift to Cockney every so often.
So one fascinating fact I love about you is like when we first met, you know, when I associate English people, I kind of think of like these, let me see, how can I politically say this without offending anybody? Just sort of soft and, you know, annoying and that sort of thing. But you actually grew up in quite a violent neighborhood, and having to defend yourself in a way and a manner that wasn't so soft and proper.
Yeah, like I'll help. Americans don't like hearing this, but I'll make it really simple. We conquered 3/4 of the world. We were the largest empire. You don't do that because you're non-violent. Like, and that's, English people are inherently violent, like naturally. I've been in America for 12 years now, and I'm telling you, when a bar fight kicks off in America, it is not the same as a bar fight in the UK. I have never seen an American grab glasses, start smashing them over people's heads, start hitting random people that aren't involved in the fight just because. It's not a thing. Like, Americans, they don't default to putting their keys between their fingers in a fist fight, and that is a very English thing to do. But like we fight like that. A lot of Americans believe America won the war, like, you know, the War of Independence, and they didn't. And I hate to say this, America, you did not win. You have to really read history books to read what happened. But all you have to do is look up the War of 1812. You have to look at the White House. It was painted white because it was burnt down. England conquered America and then didn't want it. It went, you know what? We're going to keep Canada because that's where the resources are. And so England divided off, or the British Empire, England divided off Canada and said, we're keeping this because this is the best part. And you guys can have the rest because you're just not worth it. And it's not told that way in American books, but it is told that way in the rest of the world. Which I understand, because pride and freedom and independence and everything. And, you know, maybe I'm getting the biased version. So I'm open to that being wrong as well. But the reason I'm saying that is English people in general are incredibly violent. I came to America because I didn't want to live in violence anymore. And, you know, like, we talk about gun shootings in America and everyone's like, you know, there's a shooting every week or whatever the statistic is. It's like, yeah, but somebody gets stabbed so often in the UK, they don't write about it anymore. Like, it's just not written about because it happens so often. That's crazy to think about, you know, like that.
Well, and you're right. They don't talk about it enough, and gun violence compared to like getting stabbed in the face. I mean, you know, that's like brutal hand-to-hand combat, in my opinion. Like, I don't want to say it's worse or bad because they both suck, but you're right. They're definitely not talked about.
Yeah, it's not compared. And the thing is, coming from England, I've just seen a side of, like, medical care is a good example. In the UK, medical care is free, and a lot of Americans like, we should have free medical care. And I'd just like to say that my dad, who only has one lung, is on a wait list and has been for 2 years to get a lung. And the reality is, if my dad dies without getting a lung, there is nothing that they can do. Now, I would fly my dad to England, to America in a heartbeat and give him a lung. But because I grew up in a bad neighborhood, my dad is still on parole after doing a 20-year prison sentence. And my dad's not allowed to leave England.
Right.
So, you know, so there is, I can't get him a lung because it's free medical care in the UK, and there is no way to get him a lung. Like, I just cannot do it. He can't leave England. I can't get him here. So my dad can't get a lung. And the problem with free medical care is that is the case. Now, there are absolutely ways that I could be on private medical care and I could pull that off in the UK, but it would cost a lot, and they won't cover my dad because my dad's a criminal and I don't live in the UK. So I'd have to move to the UK. I'd have to get my own private medical care. And it's so much paperwork that is stopping somebody from living. Whereas in America, you'll get the loan.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have a horrible debt for the rest of your life, but you get the loan.
But you'll have a life. Yeah, I experienced that. We went over to England for about a month, probably about 10 or 15 years ago to help out a drug rehab that existed over there. And that's exactly what we were looking at. And of course, this is way pre-Obamacare and everything else, where people, we really learned the social healthcare system, and like people who needed drug rehab, it was like non-existent unless there was private pay, because their solution was, like you said, a very long waiting list, methadone, you couldn't get in. And so it was kind of like, it was just not a big thing for them. So when, you know, fast forward, we're over here and people are clamoring for a more socialized healthcare system. I'm like, look, that's not, I mean, it sounds all great, but it's not the great that you think it's going to be. And then again, that's just us as a young country that doesn't have a whole lot of experience, and everything looks greener than what we have here.
It just sounds good until you're on a 2-year waiting list, or like going to I remember going to the emergency room and being told, like, it's an emergency, I'm bleeding. And they're like, we'll see you in 8 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I'm bleeding. And they'll hand you gauze and be like, hold this on the wound. We'll see you soon. I'm like, can I have a nurse set this up? There are none available.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what it's actually like. What it's actually like is bleeding out on the floor with other people bleeding out on the floor in the same room.
Yeah. Swapping germs and all that fun stuff.
That's and I contracted MRSA because of it. Like, that's what it's,
that's hardcore.
That's free medical care. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, America doesn't understand, because you just hear free.
Right. Right.
You get what you pay for, right? Like, if it's free, you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for, but you're paying for it in your 50% taxes. So it's like, you know, for English people, half their income's going to the Queen or wherever, their government, and getting free healthcare, but it sucks. So yeah, people, when they don't know, they don't know. They just think
actually, I love that. I love that correction, mate. It is the government, not the Queen.
Yeah.
And this was set apart during the Battle of the Roundheads and the Cavaliers, when Parliament won. And so Parliament gets the taxes, which is the government, not the Queen. But this came up in the UK. There was confusion. A lot of people in England got very angry at the Queen, saying that she was taking the taxes. And she had to make a public statement about it and be like, hey, that's not how the monarchy works in England. Like, and she, like, actually, you know, rest her soul, she had to say this. And she had to make a point, which is, tourism in England is based around the royal family. People come to England to see the royals. And they're like, and all that money that they spend on food and restaurants and everything, they're coming to see our family. And you get to keep that. And they're like, make no mistake, if you work in the food industry, if you work in the travel industry, if you have an Airbnb, the money that is spent for people coming, they're coming to England to see our buildings, to see our family, to see our jewels. That's the major component of tourism in the UK.
Yep. And you can see that's where the confusion comes, because like I took those tours and I'm looking at all their jewels and their crowns and this, and I'm like, oh, this is where all the money's going. You know, that is a natural assumption for sure.
Right, exactly. And she was like, it's been separated for hundreds of years, like hundreds of years. She's like, they're family heirlooms, like they've been handed down and handed down and handed down, you know. And she's like, and we make our money now from our own investments, our own property, and you know, that's what we do. She's like, we don't get it from the general public. But she had to make a statement about it because people were confused. I love that she did it as well, because I'm a huge fan of the royals. I just, well, her specific, I'm actually a fan of the Queen. I don't know if I'm a fan of the royals, but I'm a fan of the Queen, because I just think she's just an incredible woman, or was an incredible woman. You know, we live in a world where everyone wants, you know, power to women, and the most powerful person on the planet was a woman for the majority of our life. That's cool. Like, I don't care how you want to word it. Like, you can be like, the majority of men have power, absolutely, but there was one woman at the top, and she controlled the majority of the land in the world, and was good. She was nice. Yeah, she wasn't, you know, like, her powers at any point, she could reclaim all her land, never use that power once. You know, could you really say that if a guy was in charge of that, he wouldn't be like, I'll just reclaim a third of it? You know what I mean? Like, she never, just a great human.
Yeah, she didn't abuse the power, and she didn't flaunt it. She just like silently just did the right thing, which is why you didn't hear about it, because she was just silently doing the right thing, not saying, hey, look at me, you know, I'm doing right by my people. She just did what she did.
Yep, just stayed quiet, looked after her own stuff, and and again, like she opened up her palace to tourists. She didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
That was a requirement, but she did that when our economy was down. She was like, "Yeah, let's open it up. Let tourists come into the palace." Boom, bunch of people like, "Let's go. We're gonna go to the palace while we can." Like that. Imagine being a queen and not ever having to see anyone and being like, "Yeah, the general public can walk through my house every day."
Yeah. No thanks.
Right. You know what I mean? Can
I
you
would
imagine
want that in my house.
every single one of your clients, Angie, are allowed to come and visit your house now,
Yeah.
like whenever they want, until 8 p.m. in the evening, right?
Yeah, that'd be so weird.
Right. That's the kind of person she is.
Yeah, that's
Amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm loving this history lesson. So now I have a question for you. So actually, this makes total sense when we talk about Canada, because I do feel like they have the socialized healthcare system. It is very similar to England.
Yeah.
How did
The
America?
Queen's face is on the money.
Yeah, totally makes sense. So how did America cut off Mexico, or what was the drive from Mexico? Like, where did that line come from and why? Because you would think we'd own everything down.
That the Battle of the Alamo, Santa Anna. Mexico came for it. They wanted Texas, right? They came after it.
Yeah.
And you know what, you got people from Tennessee, Texas stood against the Mexicans and fought them off and divided the line.
Like, so that's where that line came from.
Yeah, you guys, that you owned, you said to Mexico. And I don't know the history of Texas, but I assume at some point it was part of Mexico, based on my limited knowledge, and you guys fought it off.
Yeah.
Claimed it. So
yeah, the Alamo. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, yay, Texas, right?
Hey, that's where you're at.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so that's that's it. But yeah, Battle of the Alamo was a key component there, because, and I mean, and I don't know if you know, I don't know how well you know the story, but that's a good story as well. Again, in England, we study history from all over the world because we conquered 3/4 of it, and it's actually taught to us as kids, which is, we conquered 3/4 of the world. You better know about our entire territory and the history of why we did it and what we did it and how it was done.
Well, in the history, they're so deep. I mean, that's what I recognized when I was over there. I was like, this goes back centuries. Like, the United States is so young. Like, our history is like this big. No wonder I had no interest. But England, like Europe, it's insane how long that history is.
Millennia. We go back,
yeah,
pre year zero, right? So it's crazy, but like, we have to study African history because we conquered part of Africa, so that was important. But yeah, the Battle of the Alamo was great because Santa Anna turned up and saw was it 130 soldiers or something, 135 I think, 135, yeah, 135 versus 10,000 I think, if I remember rightly. I wonder if I'm accurate on that. But yeah, so, and Jim Bowie was there, that invented the Bowie knife. Davy Crockett. I mean, these are great American heroes. And Santa Anna turned up and saw that there was a tiny little church with 130 something people there. And he was like, you guys can leave. Like, we will let you live. Like, just leave, go for a walk. And what was his name? The guy that was leading them, I forget his name at the minute anyway, but he fired a cannon straight at Santa Anna and tried to end it in a single shot. And Santa Anna's like, I'm going to kill you all. Like, for that, I'm going to absolutely kill you all. And they repelled him for days. They sent him back. I mean, you think about the 300 movie, the Alamo is just as incredible.
Yeah.
And less people.
Yeah. Wow.
Mind-blowing.
It's amazing. Yeah. As a kid, I hated history. I don't know why. But like, that was the class I'd go to sleep in. Like, oh, good, history's here. And I would go to sleep in that class. But when I went and actually visited Europe and I actually got, the understanding, it totally changed my whole viewpoint. Now I find it absolutely fascinating. And we kind of touched on this earlier, but we see them rewriting history today. Like, in our lifetime, we're watching them rewrite what actually happened. So a lot of it for me is storytelling. It's like, how much is really real and how much is just, passed down from generation to generation. It has been so altered. There's absolutely, in my mind, no way it could be 100% accurate.
Yeah, I mean, history is written by the victors, right? So they always do it. It was Colonel Travis. I totally just Googled it. And it was 100 men garrisoned there, 200 in total, and it looked like between 130 and 150 were fighting. So anyway, but yes, nice. it's written by the victor. The victor writes it. So again, we're taught this in school because the British Empire conquered 3/4 of the world. We probably wrote the books, so you kind of can't even trust what we're saying. Which is why I said I'm open to the fact that maybe America did completely destroy England in Battle of England. Who knows? because I read history books that were written by English people. So
right. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, and not to get religious, but that's kind of how I am about the Bible too. I'm like, what is the legitimacy all these years later? Come on. Like, I get it. They're good moral stories and things like that, but I just doubt accuracy of anything that's prior to, well, present day, really.
Yeah, I've got some incredibly heretical views about the Bible, which I'm totally going to share one right now. And the reason I'm going to do that is because for a while I did stand-up comedy, and this was one of my acts, so I feel totally okay sharing it. Which is, I find that history is a lot easier if you would take the event and instead of idolizing it, just bring it to today and think, okay, if it wasn't, if Mary wasn't somebody who had immaculate childbirth then, but Mary was married to a dude called Joseph today. And let's look at the scenario. Okay, so Mary and Joseph are married. Joseph's a carpenter and Mary's his wife. And they've been married for a while, but they've never had sex. Now, I'm a dating coach. That's a cause for concern. Why have they never had sex? Why didn't they have sex on their wedding night? What happened? Right? I want to know that. And then one day, and I just imagine, right? Mary's just some chick from down the road. Go, yeah, Mary and Joseph got married, but they never had sex. It's weird. I don't know why that happened. And people would gossip, would talk about it, right? Yeah. And then one day Mary's pregnant. And we're like, finally, Joseph did it. Good on you. And then Joseph's like, yeah, crazy. I never had sex with her. She just got pregnant. Wow. And I know what we'd be saying. We'd be like, well, Mary's having sex with someone.
Yes.
And Joseph's like, nope, I'm telling you, it was immaculate. She said that it was because before her, there was no talk about God like that. Right. But now there's talk about, like, so she's like, yeah, it was a God, it was a different God, it was a new one. Like, that sounds crazy too. And then the weirdest part is when she gives birth and a bunch of random dudes turn up to look at the baby. You know what I'm saying? They're like, no, doesn't look like me, but just in case, here's some gold, right? Here's some frankincense, just in case. Like, it's worth a lot of money, these spices, just look after the kid, give it a good life. To me, that's the most logical scenario for what happened. Now, is that what happened? I'm not boo-booing religion. I'm just trying to be funny. But when you applied modern day logic to a past scenario, I can't think, why didn't they have sex if they were married?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Anyway.
Yeah. It's true.
History is written by the winners. That's all I'll say.
The winners. I like that. You're right. And it is from that viewpoint. But yeah, hey, whatever keeps us on the rails, I guess, all these years.
You got it. You got it.
So out of every place you could land in the United States, why Texas?
I landed in Texas because I woke up as a person in England and was like, I'm tired of being in England. I don't want to be here anymore. And as a kid, I was raised on CMTV, country music television. And so I was raised on all the old songs. I knew the history of Texas and Tennessee somewhat, not perfectly, but through what I picked up in music videos. So I always idolized Texas. When I was in the UK, I fell in love with a Dallas cheerleader from TCU. And so I came here first for her. We ended up getting married, subsequently divorced, but so we started off living in Dallas, and then we spent some time living in Miami and living in Chicago, and traveling to LA a lot, in New York. And one day I came to Austin and fell in love with the town. I bought a home, and I've mostly been here ever since. I spent 2 years in LA, but mostly been here ever since.
That's awesome. Have you run into Matthew McConaughey at the Austin University? Because I know you've spoke there as well.
I have, yeah. I've taught at the place, but I have not met him specifically. But I have taught at UT a few times now, and I love teaching there when I get to. I think that UT is just an incredible school, and I really enjoy being, a guest professor there when I've had the chance to. I'm kind of an introvert, so I don't really go out and interact much. I could probably put some more effort in and do it, but I'm just not interested in it. I live on a ranch. We've got cows, we've got chickens, we grow our own food. It's like this morning, the golden sauce that I made, which is an egg-based sauce, was made with eggs from our farm. So yeah, life's good.
That's nice. That's a smart lifestyle for sure. And thanks. Texas still has land, unlike California where I live here. So yeah, take advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, we still have land, which is beautiful.
Do you see what I have right here?
No, it's too small.
Oh, it's the Golden Nugget Award.
Oh,
It's
that you won. Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. So for those watching, Angie came out to an event we run called the Working Vacation. It's right at workingvacation.com. And it's where we run a mastermind on a boat, and we help people grow their business. And we invite business owners to share a tip. And then all the people get to vote what the best tip was. And Angie won. So she won the Golden Nugget for the best Golden Nugget on the award. It's awesome.
Yeah, this thing is so heavy. Like it weighs like 10 pounds. I'm like, how did I even have weight in my suitcase? I'm usually packed to the gill. I am shocked. I think I put it in my carry-on. There's no other way I could have got this in my suitcase.
The new ones are smaller. So that's like the only one like that will ever exist, which is really cool.
Well, I proudly have it right here on my podcast desk where I leave it so that I can talk about how my tip was the best. No,
it was absolutely the best.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't just about giving the tip; it's about presentation. And obviously, I have a lot more experience than I think, other people. But yeah, it was pretty awesome.
I love that.
I know. And I had a great time on this ship. I wanted to tell you, thank you for that. I enjoyed hanging out with you guys. I enjoyed getting to know you better and being part of that whole experience. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. My absolute pleasure. It was great to have you there.
Awesome. Cool. So what's the latest and greatest, and where can our followers find you?
The best place to find me is at the Adam Lyons, Lyons, on Instagram or Facebook or pretty much anywhere. I'm at the Adam Lyons. And yeah, just, follow me. Feel free to send me a message, say hi, that you enjoyed the podcast. That'd be great. And yeah, that's best just to connect.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on your show. Tell Eve I said hello.
I will.
And next time I'm out in Austin, hopefully, because my son goes to Baylor. So I used to always fly into Dallas, but now with Soraya living in Austin, I'll probably fly into Austin to go visit him. I like that drive better from Austin to Waco than Dallas to Waco. I just think it's a nicer drive.
I like Temple on the way in as well. It's nice.
Is that nice? Should I stop?
It's good little towns to see on the way.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking your time with me and coming on the show today.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Angie.
Yeah. Talk soon.